The case of Bobby Hodges. Can a 4-year-old child remember dying alongside his twin brother in his mother's womb? How could he describe in detail a failed pregnancy, one no one ever spoke to him about? Bobby Hodges claimed to have been a baby who was never born. He remembered first being in his aunt's womb and later in his mother's, and he described in detail what happened during the time he was in both wombs. This case, documented by Dr. Jim B. Tucker of the University of Virginia, raises deep questions about human consciousness. Does it begin with the neurological development of the fetus, or only after birth? Or does our spirit incarnate in a new body over and over again? The case of Bobby Hodges. Bobby Hodges was 4 years old when he began making unusual statements. He said puzzling things, like he didn't belong to his current family. He claimed his real home was his cousin's house, where he said his real family lived, an older boy and 3 girls. He said that boy was his brother. It's important to note that Bobby's aunt had a miscarriage with twins after giving birth to her son. He asked why his mother was keeping him away from his real family. His parents assumed he said that because there were more kids at his cousin's house, and they didn't take it seriously. Until one night, after a bath, at age 4.5, he asked his mother, "Mom, do you remember when I was in your belly?" "Of course I remember." Bobby said, "Do you remember when Donald and I were in your belly at the same time?" His mother replied that it had only been him. Bobby insisted, "No, Mom, we were both there, but I didn't get born." She said, "You were born, and Donald was born later." Then Bobby, a bit upset, said, "Donald and I were in Aunt Susan's belly, not yours. Why didn't we get born from Aunt Susan's belly?" Bobby's mother was left speechless. There was no way her son could have known that. Years earlier, her sister-in-law had lost twin boys. Bobby then got very upset and started yelling at Donald. "Donald, it's your fault. I told you I really wanted to be born, and you didn't want to. How did you push me out? Why didn't you want to be born? Tell me how you did it." His mother had to hold him back to keep him from attacking Donald. She told him not to yell at Donald. He didn't know what Bobby was talking about. But Bobby screamed that Donald did know, and once again asked why he pushed him out of Aunt Susan's womb. Donald then removed his pacifier and shouted, "No, I wanted Dad," and then put his pacifier back in. Bobby yelled back, "I didn't want Dad, I wanted Uncle Ron." After calming down, Bobby told his mom that after the failed pregnancy, he had tried to go back into Aunt Susan's belly, but his cousin Rebecca was already there. He said, "I wanted to be in there, but she wouldn't let me. I tried to kick her, but it didn't work. She got born, and I didn't." Then he said he entered his mom's belly and was born. He added, "Of course, I had to work hard to get here, Mom." Again. Bobby's Uncle Ron is his father's brother. Ron's wife, Susan, had been pregnant with twin boys 7 years before Bobby was born. At 33 weeks of gestation, she stopped feeling them move. At the hospital, they learned both babies had died. The medical report said the umbilical cord connection to the placenta lacked adequate covering around the blood vessels, making it very prone to compression. Doctors believed that one twin rolled onto the cord, cutting off the blood supply and causing both to die. The family never spoke of the miscarriage, too traumatic to revisit. A few months later, Susan and Ron became pregnant again and went on to have 3 girls. The youngest, Rebecca, was born 18 months before Bobby. Bobby had said he had been one of Susan's twins, but also made comments about other past lives. He said in one life, he died from a gunshot wound. In another, he died as a teenager in a car accident. One day, after recovering from a cold, he told his mom, "In the other world, people don't get sick." She asked, "In the other world, Bobby?" He replied, "The world where I was waiting to be born. People don't get sick there. Everyone is happy and never gets sick." I wish we didn't get sick in this world. On another occasion, he spoke of his parents' wedding, which happened when his mother was already pregnant with him. There were no wedding photos displayed at home. The wedding took place at a hilltop gazebo. They had to climb steps to reach it. One day, Bobby saw his mother sorting through some photos. She handed him a picture from the wedding and asked if he knew what it was. He replied, "Yes, Mom. That's a picture of you and Dad getting married. I was there. I saw everything." She asked, "You saw it?" He said, "Yes, Mom. You climbed the stairs, exchanged rings, and then ate cake." On Bobby's 4th birthday, he talked about his birth. He was delivered by C-section after a prolonged labor. He had been in occipito-posterior position, facing up, and the nurses couldn't rotate him. He said he had been kicking inside the womb, trying to come out. "They were pushing on my head, Mom, trying to make me turn back inside, and it made me really mad. I wanted to come out, but I couldn't. I was stuck." His mother replied, "Yes, you were stuck. They were pushing on your head to help you turn. All you had to do was turn, and you could have come out." Bobby answered, "Oh, I didn't know that. I would have turned, but I thought they were trying to push me back in." He continued, "Then I saw the light, and the doctor took me out of your belly. Then they cleaned off all the goop, put me in a bed, and finally I got some sleep." Bobby's case is an example of a child who speaks about the intermission between the previous personality's death and his current birth. He spoke about events that happened while he was in the womb, and also about being in another world before coming to his mother. Out of 1,100 cases, 69 subjects reported memories of the previous personality's funeral or handling of the body. 91 described other earthly events. 112 reported memories of being in another realm, and 45 recalled conception or rebirth experiences. Only 217 of the 1,100 cases included at least one of these types of memories. From a scientific perspective, we still don't fully understand how consciousness arises. But cases like Bobby Hodges, investigated by psychiatrists at the University of Virginia, suggest that there might be memories from a prior existence, even experiences in what some call an interlife state. From a spiritual perspective, authors like Allan Kardec claim that the soul pre-exists the body and often chooses its path before incarnation. In Spiritism, that space between lives, what Bobby called the world where no one gets sick, corresponds to a plane where the spirit reflects, learns, and prepares for a new existence. Science and spirituality have yet to fully meet, but when a child speaks clearly of that transition, perhaps we are closer to understanding who we really are and where we come from. The Boy Who Remembered Another Life. The Case of Katsugorō. Nakano, Japan, October 10th, 1815. In a small farming village, 34 kilometers from what is now Tokyo, a boy was born who would forever change the way we understand life and death. His name was Katsugorō. One day, when he was just 8 years old, Katsugorō was playing among the rice fields with his older siblings, Otojiro and Fusa. Suddenly, he stopped and asked, "Brother, where were you before you were born into this family?" Otojiro replied, surprised, "I don't know. I've never thought about that." Katsugorō asked Fusa the same question. She mocked him, saying, "How could I know where I was before I was born? Why do you ask such nonsense?" But Katsugorō insisted, "So, you don't know where you were before you were born?" Fusa, mockingly, "And do you?" Katsugorō, very serious, said, "Yes, my name was Tozo. I was the son of a man named Kyubei." Fusa looked at him, shocked, and then threatened, "That's really strange. I'm going to tell Mom and Dad." Katsugorō, trembling and crying, pleaded, "Please don't tell them." From that day on, Fusa used his secret to blackmail him whenever they argued. But the truth wouldn't stay hidden for long. Their parents, Genzo and Sei, noticed something odd between their children and pressured Fusa to tell them what was going on. She confessed, and then the whole family listened, stunned, as the boy told his story. Katsugorō began. My name was Tozo. I lived in a village called Hodokubo. My mother's name was Oshizu. My father, Kyubei, died when I was very young. She remarried a man named Hanshiro, who loved me very much. I died at 6 years old because I didn't take my medicine. And then, I was born again in this family. Katsugorō didn't just remember his past life. He also remembered his death. He went on, speaking with complete confidence. It didn't hurt. It was scary for a moment, but then it went away. I saw how they put my body into the coffin and how they lowered it into the grave. I was there, standing on top of the coffin, watching everything. I saw the monks reciting sutras, but they didn't take me anywhere. I just thought, these men only want money. I went back home. I saw my mother. I heard her words. I spoke to her, but no one could hear me. Then, an old man with white hair appeared. He wore a black kimono. He said to me, "Come with me." I followed him. We walked. We climbed. And suddenly, we arrived at a field full of flowers. A crow startled me when I tried to break a branch. Even now, I feel scared when I remember that. I returned home many times. During the Festival of the Dead, I even saw the hot dumplings on the table. I couldn't eat them, but I could enjoy their aroma. One day, the old man pointed to a house. "You will be born there," he said. It was the house of Genzo, his current father. Katsugorō said he spent 3 days watching from a persimmon tree, and then entered. His grandmother, Suya, was deeply moved by the story and decided to investigate. She asked around about the village of Hodokubo. At a gathering place for older women, she asked, "Do any of you know someone named Kyubei who lives in Hodokubo?" One woman replied, "I'm not sure, but I have contacts there. I could ask about him. But why are you interested in this man?" Suya couldn't hold back and told them the story of Katsugorō. Then, an elderly man from Hodokubo arrived and said, "I know Hanshiro well, from the village of Hodokubo. Kyubei was the name of Tozo's father. But he died 15 years ago. His wife remarried Hanshiro. Recently, I heard about a boy claiming to be the son of Kyubei, named Tozo, who died at 6 and was reborn into another house. The story this boy tells matches real events, so we wanted to know more, and they sent me here." A few days later, Tsuya and Katsugorō walked nearly 6 kilometers to Hodokubo. When they arrived at the village, Katsugorō found the house easily. It was between 2 others, just as he had described. Inside were Hanshiro and Oshizu. When they saw him, they broke down in tears. "You look so much like our Tozo." Katsugorō looked around. That roof wasn't there before. That tree is new. Everything was true. Even an older woman, a relative of Kyubei, exclaimed, "He looks just like Kyubei," and wept uncontrollably. From that day on, Katsugorō only wanted to return to Hodokubo. He cried at night, begging his grandmother, "Take me there. I want to visit the grave of my former father." Finally, Genzo agreed. Soon, the families of Katsugorō and Tozo began visiting each other, sharing memories, and uniting. Genzo, Katsugoro's father, said that from the time his son was born, he was never afraid of ghosts or evil spirits. He once took care of a man named Genhichi who suffered from mental illness. Genzo had built a hut for him to live in. As Genhichi neared death, his appearance became terrifying. His own brothers wouldn't go near the hut, but Katsugorō said, "He's dying. His situation makes me sad. Please prepare medicine and food for him. I'll take it right away." And he would, even late at night. When the man died, Katsugoro's brothers were so afraid they didn't dare go to the toilet. At that time, in Japan, toilets were outside the house. But Katsugoro said, "Why are you afraid of death?" He showed no fear at all. He also said, "I'm not afraid of dying." When asked why, he answered, "I realized I was dead because people were saying I was. When I died, I didn't see my body, and I didn't think I was dead. The moment of death wasn't as painful as others might think. After dying, I didn't feel hunger, cold, or heat. It wasn't dark, even at night. No matter how much I walked, I never felt tired. When I was with the old man, I wasn't afraid of anything." He added, "People say I was born 6 years later, but to me, it felt much shorter." Katsugoro grew up. At age 11, he studied with the scholar Hirata Atsutane. He married, adopted a child in 1854, and lived as a farmer until his death in 1869 at the age of 55. His story was never forgotten. In the city of Hino, once known as Hotokubo, the story of Katsugoro remains well known. In 2006, a research group named Umarakawari Monogatari Tankyu Chosodan investigated the case for the local history museum. It began with 32 researchers, growing to 62 by the time the investigative report was published in 2015. Among them were living relatives of both Katsugoro and Tozo. Even today, the boy who claimed to remember another life continues to inspire generations who dare to ask, "And you? Do you remember anything from before you were born?"